Hello guys and welcome back. So now we're going to continue adding a little bit more details to the brick wall here. And what I'd like to add is make a completely different material for the flat areas. And I'd like to make this to be made of bricks, and then this area here to have metallic beams on them. And I quickly noticed that the parts here are not flat. They're not going to be easy to blend the extra details with them, and I thought maybe I can show you guys something new and different to make a little bit of changes here, and hopefully teach you guys a new technique to add interesting details. So if we look at the fields here, we can do a height field shrink. We can do a height field mask shrink, and this is basically a compositing operation. It's like doing an erode filter in compositing. You can see how the data is expanding, how the pixels are expanding. So let's take a look at the values only, and let's look at the result. What happens to the displacement? You can see that it's creating some interesting layering effect with this mask, and it can start increasing that, and it's creating some really cool details that I like. I like the stepping that we're getting here. So let's play with this a little bit more. So let's lower this to get more room. Okay, cool. And let's see, maybe increase the value here. Yeah, I want to make more stepping effect for this. Yeah, I definitely like this stuff, and it's very complex thing to add. The layering, the stacking of layers is very complex to add, and this is a quick and cheap way to do that. And what we can do as well to break that uniformity, for some reason I can't display the mask here. There's definitely some weirdness with, so if I switch the viewport, it refreshes. Sometimes I have to close the view and create a new one. So what we can do now is we can add a distort node and distort this a little bit. And let's take a look at the height field result and see how that affects. We want to affect the mask. We don't want to affect the noise, the height field. Okay, cool. So you can see what kind of details we can get with this. Let's change it to curl, and let's reduce it to maybe 8. Too much, something like that. And this is just an idea to basically break up all the details that we have here, and I was looking to get something like this kind of sharp transition. And now we can clip it one more time, which is happening here. So let's just improve this. So this is working nicely now. Let's go down a bit more because we have more room. We don't want to change that too much. Yeah, something like that. Cool. So this is what I was looking for. I was looking to get non-uniform patterns across the bricks, and then change in volume. And I really like the push and pull as well that we're getting between the blocks. There is a little bit of roundness here, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. And I really like the fact that we have you can see different bumps based on different levels, and this is really cool. So okay, let's continue and add our details. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to add interesting beam metals here, and what I'm going to start with is using a pattern, so a height field pattern node, and I'm going to create let me change this. So I'm going to create a ramp, and I'm interested in generating a mask, and I'm going to rotate this mask 90 degrees, and change the size to 20. And in the ramp, I can control now the shape and where the ramp happens, where the detail gets generated. So something like that. Okay. And then the next thing is, now that we saw this, we can use it as a mask. Okay, let's do this. So I can put down a transform node, a height field transform. Height field transform. I'm using this to show you guys something new, and I'm gonna offset the height, so I'm moving it. Okay, and then I'm going to use a layer node, height field layer, and I'm going to mix the original one, which is this, with the transformed one using this mask. And let's make sure that our mask is reasonable. So we set the height to 1, maybe 0.2, something like that. And this is what I'm looking for, basically just a stripes being pushed out. And let's make this a bit bigger. And let's just smooth it a little bit. So let's add a height field mask blur, and this is too much, so let's just add 1, something like that. And the next thing I want to add is, I don't want these guys to be I don't want them to be just flat like that. I want to add more details to these guys. So what I'm going to do is I can use the same mask here, and I'm going to create another pattern. So pattern, same thing, and it's connected to the original one. I'm actually going to grab all of these because it's starting to get a bit noisy. So let's move this point here. There is an easier way to do this, but I want to show you guys how you can mix and use the transform node. So let's organize the nodes a bit. Cool. And with this pattern, I want to generate a ramp as well. And I want the ramp to be just in a small section. And I want it to be really small. Something like that. And for the height, let's add just 1. And now I want to rotate this 45 degrees. And let's increase the repetition more. Sorry. Let's make something like this. Okay, let's try. Okay, cool. Something like that. And now I'm going to mix these two guys. So, layer. Actually, let's add it here. So this is the original result, and this is the height field, and let's just add it. So it's been applied to everything, but I don't want that. I want to just apply it to the mask that we've created, which is this guy. So this is our mask, and that's the result. Let's multiply it a little bit so it's clearer, and now we have extra details added on top of those. So let's increase the resolution because we're creating very fine details and it's hard to see them. So adding resolution will definitely help. And let's make them a bit thicker because I think it's too small. And you can see how we can control the transition, how we can control the shape of the details that we're adding. And this is very powerful. Cool. So the next thing I wanted to add is another detail. And I wanted to add basically stripes along this way in here. So I'm gonna add another ramp. I'm gonna set the rotation to 0, and this is what I want. Set the repetition to 4. Cool. Height to 10, and let's take this mask here and invert that. So connect this mask, and instead of that, we're going to invert the mask. See if we have a mask invert node. We don't have a mask invert node. Okay, let's create another mask then. Height field by feature, mask by feature, and this is our original mesh. We want to mask by the height. So compute range, and let's isolate the bottom part. Cool, something like that. And then 0 maybe. Yeah, that. And let's connect, and now we have details in there, and that's what I want. And let's maybe soften them a bit, lower them just a tiny bit, and now we have very interesting metallic structure. And now let's merge these guys together. Now how do we do that? Well, it's actually very easy to do that. So we're going to use this mask, which we generated recently using the mask by height, and I'm going to add a layer node, height field layer. I'm going to connect the first one and then the new detail that we'd like to add, and we should, if we connect that, boom, it's done. And the amazing thing about this is that let me turn off the transformation. It's too much. So I need to keep the transformation because the mask is already generated based on that. And let me transform all this down a bit. So maybe 0.2. This is just a transform. And the awesome thing that I really like about this is the nice blend between these two guys. You get a very nice transition, and it slowly becomes the other material, and this is very, very realistic. Cool. So I'd like to push this down a bit. So let's try and do -0.5, -1. Something like that. We're just pushing this down. Let's go down a bit more. Cool. So now we have nice gaps here. That's probably too much, but you guys get the idea. And that's how we create interesting materials. Now let's see if we can rotate this. Let's see if we can rotate the whole pattern. It's not going to work. We have to go back and rotate everything, and it's going to be a couple of tweaks. Let's see. So let's try 90, and this is cool. Yeah, this is the pattern I'm mainly interested in. Cool, so let's see this guy. Okay, something like that. Okay, cool. And then the last part is this, which I think is cool. So, but let's rotate it to 45 to 90 degree, maybe 100. Okay, something like that. And then let's see what we get. Yeah. It's much more interesting to have different direction for these patterns. And now we have all kinds of information that we can use. For example, this mask here, we can wrap, we can do a height field export. Come on. Where is the height field node? I don't remember the name. Height field output. And I can output this to be a mask that I can use later to shade differently the metal out from the bricks, from this. so we can have different controls. And there is so many ideas to what we can do with this. There is an infinite amount of control that we have. We can also look at using the original, this mask here, to add. And you can see how it's adding both of them together. So that's one thing. We can also add the original one, and there is so many options to what we can do with this. Now the other thing I wanted to show is this. So with the height field shrink, with the height field mask shrink, I can create a noise like this. So let's see, let me reduce the number of points if it ever comes back. So let's set this to 1, sorry, the grid resolution, and let's lower this. Let's copy the shrink node, and let's do a transform. I want to apply this to the main grid, so I want to transform that up. I want to set the scale to be the same, and then a layer node, and let's put a dot here, height field, the original, and let's use this mask. Boom, and now we have something very, very interesting. This pattern is really hard to get using any other pattern generator in Houdini, and what I like the most about this is that we can do this. I can copy this guy, make the pattern really big, copy this node, and layer, height field layer, and I want to combine these two guys, so add, okay, let's see if we get, yeah, so we're getting both results combined, and I can reduce this, and this is again really, really complex to get the sharp transitions here, and you can see we have all kinds of amazing controls for us. And the other thing is we can add distortion, and I need to learn to stop, but I want to do this, so let's distort the mask. Something like that, and let's add another noise and see what we get. And let's change it to whirly. I'm just trying here, to be honest, but I think there is a lot of potential for this technique. Let's add a little bit of distortion. That's too aggressive, but you guys get the idea. Hopefully you guys can figure out something interesting out of this. Cool, I think that's pretty much it for this video, and for the bricks we're going to move on to do something a little bit more complex. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.